Good day, welcome to the lecture series, Learn Unreal Engine 5.7.2 for Beginners. This video shows you how to set up the walking and jumping animations for a character.
Okay, so we're going to set up the animations for this character now. So we know this character is working, we just imported the mesh. So we went to Window, Overall Settings, center here. We the pawn class. We make sure we selected my game character, this blueprint class. That's this blueprint. We make sure we selected this blueprint because this is the blueprint for our character. Let's open it up. Go to the viewport. You can see the character here. So if you look in the animation blueprint, we can see none is selected. We need to create an animation blueprint and put it inside here. Now let's go to here. We are in the blueprint. Let's go to here, the character movement. Now this character movement controls all the movement for the character. So we can see the maximum acceleration, the crouch height. We can see the character walkable floor angle. We can see the max walk speed. So that determines the speed the character moves at, etc. So you can control all the movements of the character by going to here and adjusting these settings in the details panel. So when you use the animation blueprint allows you to switch between different animations as you move your character or as you implement different actions. So we need to create an animation blueprint. So the character I'm working with is this character here, and we will go in here. These are all the different animations. So let's go and create an animation blueprint. So we right click animation blueprint. We need to choose a skeleton. We will call this skeleton, I think it's the ranger skeleton we need to use. And we just give us a name, animation blueprint, so ADP. So we have the animation blueprint created. Of course, you need to go into this and adjust it in details. But before we do that, we want to be able to control the character's movement in terms of walking forward and backwards. So to do that, right click, go to animation, we go to legacy, then click 1D and type the skeleton. The skeleton will be the ranger. So I'll name this blend space ranger 1D. So I'll double click and I'll open. So now that we are in blend space 1D, we need to put two animations. We need to put one animation here for when the character is in idle. I need to put an animation here when the character is walking. So I'll search here. So these here, if we go to the asset browser here, on this panel on the right, you can see the different animations. So I just type idle. I will choose this one. So the node will come here. So that's the character in idle. So I'll drag this across. So the character is like he's running. So we can see the character, how he looks like he's running. So what I'll do, press Control and just move the mouse across, hold down Control and I just move the mouse across, and you can see the character transitioning to the running. So how this blend space works is that when the character velocity at speed or velocity is at 0, it stays in idle. But when the character's velocity increases, obviously when the character starts to move, it transitions to this running animation. Okay, so now we want to see some details regarding this character. So what we'll do, go to window, look at asset details. So we make sure this window is open. So we can see here, we need to look for movement. Horizontal axis. So this is the movements here. This maximum value, this is the value for the running animation. This needs to be 600. The reason why I'm saying 600 is because when you go here, I go to my character movement, when you go to the details, character maximum walk speed is 600. So the maximum walk speed is 600, so that's how fast the character will move. So what we want is that when the character reaches 600, it will play this running animation. So when the character reaches 600, then it will be running like this. So we need to move this to 600. Note that when we change this from, go back to 100, when we change the maximum running value from 100 to 600, the animation stops here because here is 100. So we need to drag this across here and to show. So for non-controller, I'm moving the mouse. So show the character transitioning and starting to run. So when the character at velocity speed reaches 600, you will run like this. When the character velocity is at 100, it will be relatively still by the idle. And then we click save. Okay, so now that this is set up, the blend space 1D is set up, we will go back to the blueprint, the animation blueprint that we created previously. So double click to open this. So now that we are in the animation blueprint, you go to right click, type in state machine, and we will call this locomotion. The reason why we are calling it locomotion because in the default animation blueprint that comes in Unreal, that's for the, let's say, the Quinn and the Manny characters, this movements that control the animations is called locomotion. So we just following the trend and we are calling this locomotion also. So what I'll do to align this, I'll draw the drag this across here. To align this is a shortcut you'll learn. That's highlight, drag and drop, and then press Q. That's a trick I learned to make things more organized. So the next thing we'll do, we'll go across in here and drop on the drag. So make sure you put the mouse like this inside this. So you have the inner box here and then you have an outer box here. So you're going to drag somewhere about here and drag this across. And you can choose add state. I'm going to type idle / running. Double click. So what we just did is we created a state and this will be the state for running. Now what we want to do, now that we are in this area here, we went to here. Oh, this is not it. Go back to locomotion. So that's Q. So we was in entry first, then we dragged this across and created this state here, and then we went in this. So we double click this. We want to show the animation for when we are running. So we want to transition from idle to running. So what we'll do, we'll move this here. This was the blend space 1D we just created. We're going to drag this from here to here. So basically when you drag from here to here, we are connecting this. Essentially this is like an input and this is like the output. This blend space shows when the character is idle and when the character velocity or speed increases to a certain value. The value was 600. When the value increases to a certain value, it will transition from the idle to the running animation. So basically what it will show as the output, this will be the output, and the output here will be when character transitions from idle to running. So when the character is idle, the idle animation will play, and when the character is moving or running, the running animation will play. I just organize this. Press Q, press compile, Press save. Minimize. Press play. Okay, so you're moving the character around and he's not running. Okay, press escape. We need to go back to the, so we need to go here, click promote a variable. We'll call this variable, let's say speed. So how we would the name this, you can either go here and change the name, or go here and change the name. So let this be speed. While we are creating a variable, we need to get some information from the character. The information from the character is supposed to come in here, and this will tell us what animation to play. The information we want from the character will be speed. So we want some information about the character speed to come into here. And once this information comes into this blend space ranger 1D, this blend space layer here, it will feed us information to track whether to move from the idle animation to the running animation. And once this information comes from here, it will now go to the output animation. So when it goes into the, let's say, the viewport, we can see if the character is in idle or if the character is in running as the character moves. So we created a variable, and that variable is speed. So we need to go here to the event graph, and we see this node. This node is the blueprint event update animation. So there are different types of nodes, and this node is like an event play. So generally speaking, the basic type of nodes that come by default with when you open a blueprint are the event play. That's the node that play or starts an event as we press the play button. We know this is the play button. Then there's an event overlap node. That's a node to make an event start or play when there's an overlap between, let's say, two characters or two assets in a game. And then there's the event update that plays the event every frame. This event blueprint update animation is like a version of that event update node. So what I'll do, I'll take this variable, that's the variable for this character, speed, that was the variable we just created. I'll drag this across, and we see that we have two options. You can get or you can set. I want to click set. Why? Because if we click set, this will set the speed. This will tell us what the speed shall be. If we use get speed, we will get information from this variable, and since the variable is speed, we will get information about the speed. We are choosing set because we want to set the speed. And then we will connect. So the next thing we need to do is we go to this node. This is where we want to get some information from the pawn. This is the pawn that will be in play. So we want to get the velocity. Get velocity. Now, ideally, we want to plug this here, but this will not work if we plug this here. So what we'll do, we'll get vector length. Now, I want to mention before I plug this inside here, the reason why we are doing this is because, yes, we get this. When we use this node, we'll get information from this character here. The information we want to get is the velocity. So that's why we went to this node. Now, ideally, we want to plug this into this, but this is a vector. We need to get a float. To convert this into a float, we type, drag this across, and type vector length. And when we got the vector length, it's now a float, and now we can plug this into this. Okay, so now that is connected, the next thing to do is to press compile. Now let me just go back here. Okay, this is working. This is working. Now, before we actually go back and press play, we need to make sure that the character is using this blueprint that we just created, the event graph. this blueprint. This is the Animgraph here. So what we'll do, we'll go back to the character and we need to select this blueprint. So go to mesh and just select the blueprint. So go to here, the animation blueprint. Can't remember this. Okay, the name of this blueprint is ABP animation blueprint _ ranger. So we'll search for the animation blueprint. That's the animation blueprint here. We went here and we found it was the ABP ranger. Press compile, press save, minimize, press play. So we see the characters in idle, and now that the character is moving, as the character moves, we see the running animations being played. The running animation was created by the 1D blend space. Now when we press jump, the character is jumping, yes, but the jumping animation is not playing. We want to create a jumping animation. So we need to configure this. Press escape. Back to the animation. Back to the blueprint here. So this is the blend space. The blend space shows that when we apply the speed, the character transitions from idle to the running animation. We'll close off this. So we need to go back to the animation blueprint. That's this, the animation blueprint. We're going back to here. This is the output pose that shows the animation that is in play. And this was the state machine that we created. Going back into here. And this is the entry. This is the idle animation we created. We need to create new state for jumping. So when the character jump, a jumping animation will play, and when the character is back on land, the jumping animation will not play. They will play either the idle or the running animation. Of course, to do this, we know we created a variable just now. So obviously, to do this, we will need to create some variable. So let's create a state for jumping. We can do this by dragging across here. I click add state. Type jumping. Or we can just right click, add state. Obviously we can't leave this as jumping because we already have a state named jumping. So I'll put in jumping 2. We can do like this. If you just drag this across, it connects states like this. But we already work with the jumping state, so I'll delete this. Alright, so we want to work with the jumping state, so let's click jumping, double click here. Now we are in jumping, right? But to jump, we need to play 2 animations. We need to play an animation for starting the jump, and we need to play an animation for looping the jump. The jump start is supposed to be a very short animation, and sometime when you're jumping, you might be in the air for a very long period of time. You want to loop the animation. So because we need to play 2 animations, what I'll do, you can right click and create a state in them, but I'll just drag this across. Type in state, machine, type in jumping. I think I'll rename on this jump. We already have the state name as jumping, so I don't want to confuse the state, so I'll just call it jump state. Don't want to confuse the naming of the nodes. Then I'll double click. I'm in here now. So drag this across, create a state, jump start, double click. I need to click the jump start now, so just type jump. I think this is jump start. Drag this across. I think I could double click to see animation. Nope, that's not the animation. So That's not the animation you want to use, so I'll delete this. You need to find a jump start. Drag this across. Double click to see the animation. Alright, I'll logo this. Press Q. So that's the jump start animation. To go back out, press this. That's the jump start. To go back again, this is the jump state machine. Back inside this, drag across, add state, type jump loop, enter, double click, and then I need to find the jump loop. I'll use this for the jump loop. Press Q to line up your nodes. Just double click to see. Yeah, that's the animation I want to play. I think I need to go back here. This needs a loop, so I need to type. Make sure it loops. So by clicking this, I'm making sure that this node here, making sure the animation loops. Yes, loop animation. So we have jump start and we want to transition to jump loop, but there should be a condition or a rule that defines when to transition from jump start to jump loop. Click this and I'll click automatic transition. What this means is that after this animation has come to an end, after this animation here has come to an end, we're supposed to automatically transition to this animation. So the next thing to do is to go back in locomotion. So we'll go back here. Remember we have the Animgraph. When you have the Animgraph, you can double click, go here, and this is locomotion. Of course, we know we can easily navigate between the different tabs by clicking accordingly on top here. So we're back in locomotion. So we want to be able to transition from the idle running state to the jumping state, and then after we have completed the jump, we want to be able to transition from the jumping state back to the idle or running state. So to do that, we'll drag this across. Let me see if I can move this. Yeah. Carry this a little higher. Now, if we double click, you can see that this requires a condition. If we double click, this also requires a condition. So there's a condition or some kind of rules required to go from the idle to jumping and back from jumping back into the idle running state. So to create the rules, let's go to the event graph. So we are here in the event graph for the animation blueprint. You go to right click and search for the node event play. Event play. Blueprint begin play. Now this will start the event, but we want to apply this event to the character. So we must get some information from the character. So we'll duplicate this. So we have this selected. Then we will press Ctrl D and drag this across. Let's move this a bit. So we'll get some information from this. Then we are going to drag here and type cast to BP my game character. Essentially, when we click this, we are casting to this blueprint. The blueprint that we are using for this character is BP my game character. So that's this blueprint. We are casting to this blueprint. This is the mesh here. We are casting to this blueprint here because we want to control this character. So now that we have reference to the blueprint for the character, we want to get the movement for the character. So I want to find the character, how you call this? Character movement. All right. Get character movement. So that's it here. Get character movement. So that is supposed to be this parameter here. Press Alt and click this to break this. We don't want to access this one time. We want to access this multiple times. So I'll right click and click promote a variable. Note that when we converted this into a variable, the variable name is here and the variable is now appearing down here. The variable name is BP my game character. So what I'll do, I'll drag this across and I'll choose get, and from now that we access this variable, we want to access the character movement. This was the character movement. This was the character movement. If you just want to double check, type in character. And what I'll do, I'll break this, press Alt and click. Get character movement. It's the same thing we just created here. Let's delete. And from the character movement component, we are now going to check if the character is fallen. Now the next thing to do is to create a variable. We can either right click and you can create a new variable is fallen. We can go here, you can create a variable, press this button here and create a variable. But what I'll do here is right click, promote a variable, and we call the variable is fallen. I'll put a question mark so I can know for myself that this is a variable. So the variable name is fallen. This is the variable is fallen. The variable name here and the variable name is here. So what we need to happen, every frame we need to check the speed of the character and determine and set if the character is fallen. So we need to connect this here. Let me arrange these things. So we need to go back to the locomotion and we need to create a rule to transition from the idle to jumping. So double click. The conditions to determine if we are going from one state to another state should be is fallen. So we get an information, plug it in here. Press Q. Alright. So go back here. So to go back from jumping animation to running animation, there should be a rule. Using the same thing is fallen, get, but you want to use not, meaning that the character is not fallen anymore. Then not, that's it here, not boolean. So if the character is no longer fallen, so the character is not fallen, then you should enter this transition. So I'll press compile, I'll press save, I'll minimize, press play. No, it's not working, something has not been connected. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll go back here, I'm in blueprint, I'm in the event graph. What I'll do, double right click, converter validated get, press compile. Okay, there's an error somewhere. I think what I'll do, I'll break this. Send this here. Send this here. Compile. That's me. File. Save. Let's go here. Compile, save, minimize, press play. Alright, it's working. It's working, but do I like this animation? Alright, so what I'll do, I'll go back and change the animation for the jump idle. So I need to go back in the blueprint, go back in the Animgraph. This is the event graph. This is the jump state, jump animations. I'll click jump in, jump state machine, jump loop. Make it change this animation. Double click. Yeah, that's it there. Break this, press Alt, press this, break this, drop this across, click this. Let's have something for loop. Loop animation, compile, save. Compile. Press play. Maybe we have to change an animation, maybe start animation. Jump start, full short. I need to make this a shorter animation. Break this, press Alt, left click, then I'll try to connect these two. Delete. Bring this across here. Compile and press save. Let's go back here. Alright, it's working. So there we have it. We have the character. We can control the movements of the character. We see the animations. We can jump. And the animations are playing when we jump. So you'll work with this.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's lecture. Do you want to know more? Like and subscribe. You can also contact us, Impulse Response Enterprises Limited.